The Nebraska Department of Agriculture announced this week beef from Nebraska will be shipped to Israel for the first time since 2003. Israel cut off imports that year due to a case of BSE in the U.S. Ag trade is prominent now with the Trans-Pacific Partnership among the top stories in ag policy. The National Association of State Departments of Agriculture, or NASDA, gathered in Washington, D.C. last week for its winter policy meeting. Nebraska's Director Greg Ibach serves as president of the group. We talked with Greg Wednesday about the TPP and GMO labeling, another topic at NASDA's meeting, but we began by focusing on China. While in Washington, Greg delivered letters to top ag officials urging them to advance their efforts to open up beef trade with the world's most populous nation. We started our discussion with Greg by asking him to give an update on that process.
From the conversations I've had with officials in China as well as with USDA and USTR officials, I think we're really close. China's agreed in principle that it's time to open up to U.S. beef. We just have to set the rules or the protocol for how that beef's going to enter that marketplace. And so what we ask Secretary Vilsack and Ambassador Froman to do is they've worked hard to get us this far. Let's get across the finish line before we have a change in administration, because I'm concerned if we don't finish it with the people we have in place that have been part of that negotiation process, that when we change administrations, we'll have new people come in and it might be like starting over.
But it is realistic to assume that at some point in the near future, U.S. beef will be in China?
Yes, okay. That we should be able to get our beef into China. They've agreed in principle. It's just figuring out those parameters.
How big is that market? Why is it so important to get into China?
That's an incredibly huge market, and they could overnight turn into our biggest Asian trading partner and even eclipse Japan, which is a very important market to us. But we're going to have to gain back market share, and we have other countries in there already. Australia set records last year with what they sent into that marketplace. So we're going to have to fight to get our market share, but hopefully, our high quality beef is a little bit different product than other countries, so I'm optimistic.
You mentioned Japan and the Trans-Pacific Partnership. How important, how big do you think that could be for agriculture?
I think the TPP is nothing but a win for agriculture. We see especially for Nebraska agriculture, we see our tariff rates on almost all of our key products, pork, beef, wheat, that are going into that marketplace right now come down drastically in the first few years of that agreement. TPP also sets a standard for how China interacts with that. We also have other countries that have come to fruition now that are saying we want in too. So that's more countries that come in. And then I think it also sets the stage for how Europe negotiates with us in TTIP.
Sort of on the same line as China there, are you worried about the timeline and how long it could take Congress to move on TPP?
Well, TPP is going to be a tricky vote in Congress. And there are the Democrats, with the labor union influence, it's hard for them to vote for it. Some Republicans have some concerns, and so I think it'll be a narrow window, maybe after in the lame duck session, where we can gather the votes and put the pressure to bring that agreement in.
One of the other aspects of the NASDA meeting was a discussion around GMO labeling, and certainly it's sort of on the coast to the upper north. Are there states that differ in their feelings about GMO labeling?
Well, I think that all states have some level of concern about a patchwork system where we might have 50 different sets of rules and regulations, and how that would work as far as interstate commerce and moving goods and products that are manufactured in your state around to other states. Maybe there's some states that, Vermont, I think, is pretty loyal to the idea that they think that GMOs should be labeled, where a lot of states like, maybe Nebraska would fall into this category, feel that, with an organic label that tells you there's no GMO product in that. So we already have a system in place, but Congress needs to make the decision, and it's, we're asking Congress right now. Senator Roberts is saying he's coming with a bill to bring into place a uniform federal system rather than a state-by-state system.
Yeah, that's what's going to be the question. Have we found that it's difficult to get the two sides together on this?
You know, Senator Roberts and Senator Stabenow, the two leads for their parties on the Senate Ag Committee, haven't really reached an agreement on principle yet. You know, the House has passed, so the Senate, as soon as the Senate can come to agreement, hopefully the President would sign that bill. But I think that Senator Roberts seems to feel like he'll be able to get those votes in here very soon. July is when Vermont implements, so I think it's important that if we're going to do something, we get it done before July.